Welcome back to Business as Unusual. Today, we're diving into some seriously transformative stuff with Kristin Quattlebaum. She's chatting about her journey from corporate life to becoming a purpose guide and healer, all while traveling with her 19-year-old kitty. I hope you stick around.
Business as Unusual is a thought-provoking podcast that explores the innovative strategies, disruptive ideas, and unconventional practices driving successful leaders and companies in the ever-evolving world of modern business. Subscribe, comment, and share for weekly inspiration with our host, Aicila.
Hello, welcome to Business as Unusual. Today I'm here with Kristin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I'd love to start off with you, talking a little bit about you and your business and anything else that you think would be good for our listeners to know.
Mm-hmm. This is always a loaded question, right? Just give me your journey in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, right. Like I'm going to cut you off. It's more than 5 sentences. No, I'm not. Definitely not.
Yeah. So I was in corporate for 15 years and I really wanted to climb the ladder. I wanted to get to the top of the chain in corporate. And that was always my goal. And I found that along the journey that I was never quite satisfied with my achievements. Like I was always sort of hustling for more and more achievements. And until one day, I actually got into an accident and started experiencing anxiety. Anxiety led me to therapy. Therapy led me to coaching. Coaching led me to meditation, which opened up my intuitive gifts. And in that phase of coaching and into my intuitive gifts, I started phasing out of corporate until the last year of my corporate roles. The 2 positions that I was in were eliminated. So I like to think of it as an invitation from the universe out of corporate. Mm-hmm. And then I started my business in March of 2019. And now I am a purpose guide and healer. I have been traveling since December of 2020 with my now 19-year-old kitty cat. We're in Nova Scotia right now. It's absolutely gorgeous here. And yeah, and so I'm really passionate about helping people to come back to really who they are, dismantling the systems and structures that we've tapped into to really find their own true, authentic expression. And I do that through use of intuition, human design, masculine, feminine, energetics, and whatever else comes through.
That's very aligned with the show. One of the things that you shared prior to us chatting is that your background is in strategic leadership. And then you moved from that into this intuition. You said that you went to the Intuition and Wisdom Institute, or you studied with them. And to me, that's a very intuitive journey, but can you bridge that a little bit for folks?
Yeah. So it was really through meditation. Meditation is what bridged all that for me. So I started meditating to really quiet my mind a little bit, to get my mind from stop like moving so fast and not finding space to really relax. And I found that the more that I quieted my mind, the more that I was able to start to hear my body and my intuition start to speak to me. And then I had visions. And as I continued to meditate and things started opening up for me more, it was just something I couldn't ignore, right? It was being able to see from corporate Kristin who thought anything was possible. My boss said to me at one point, he said, "The sky is the limit for you." And I said, "There's a limit." And that was the way corporate Kristin thought. And then seeing what I've seen through meditation and intuition, it's just so, you can't question it, and I feel it in every cell of my being. And so I like to tell people I was literally paid to think. And now I make all my decisions and guide my life with my intuition. I guide my business through my intuition because it's so much more expansive than the mind.
Mm-hmm. One of the topics that you mentioned having an interest in talking about is the the courage to express yourself and leading from intuition is different from maybe being in your head so much. I'm curious if you can say what the benefit to the business is for having people that lead from intuition and express themselves.
I feel like when we think of something, right, even when we're trying to manifest things and we think of a very specific outcome, we sort of can anchor into that version of the result, right? And so when we're building a business from the mind or the way that we think it should go or what the actual literal path looks like, I feel like we can limit and anchor ourselves into that particular result as opposed to allowing it to be more open and for the path to kind of lay itself out in front of you, right? For example, one of the things for me as I've been traveling is I started getting messages from the land intuitively, like as I was landing in different spaces. And I've always felt that I'm traveling, sort of planting seeds and creating this like web of energy around the world for people to tap into and like wake up, out of the matrix. And I've noticed this connection with the land, but I didn't really think a lot of it. And most recently, I've gotten messages that I'm meant to facilitate and guide people through connecting with the land and getting messages from the land, right? That's an example of something that I never would have thought of in my mind to create my business. And now here it is presenting itself to me because I've just opened my heart to surrendering to how the path unfolds in front of me. And sometimes I think that I can, like, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to surrender, right? And I think I'm surrendering, and then I'll like plan out my journey a little bit, and then I'll be redirected by the forest fires or something like that. And so it's really a balance. It's not, I can't say to you, I've jumped off the cliff and I'm, completely surrendered. And in my intuition, it's a balance, right? You're constantly being pulled back into the intense energy that this world is and how people tend to guide themselves through the mind and through what's traditional, right? That like what the status quo is, what everybody else is doing, what those traditional structures are. It takes work to have the courage to step out of them, but also to continue to come back and remind yourself like, oh, we're not here. We're actually building our own way over here. So it's a lot of energy that you have to learn to navigate for sure.
Yeah. So interestingly, I've been reading a book this year that really reminds me of what you're talking about. It's called If Women Rose Rooted by Sharon Blackie. And she talks about it as a woman from a Celtic background and the importance of being connected to the land and the ways in which she calls the modern society the wasteland, that we are, sort of adrift here because we haven't culturally embraced that we need to be connected to the land. We are actually part of the earth. So it's interesting that you're finding ways to express that, because I feel like there is a time and a space for that. However, it doesn't fit into, like you said, the way that we tend to talk about business, especially in Western culture. I don't think that's the case with all cultures, but speaking specifically to the one that I work the most in, that's a long way to say, one, you might enjoy that book, and anyone who's listening, check it out. Two, how does that get received? Like, imagine that there are people who are receptive, but do you find that the corporate cultures are able to really bring that in?
That's one bridge I haven't crossed yet. I've felt that, I didn't spend 15 years in corporate to not go back and bridge the knowledge that I have now, but I haven't found an entry point yet there. I have worked with small businesses and solo entrepreneurs, and then people who are transitioning out of corporate or think they want to transition, because not everybody's meant to, right? But really helping people find, again, like unraveling from everything they're attached into to really find the courage to express their true voice. Some people they're in so much fear that they don't even know what that is or what that would look like to express that. And so my journey, the way that I guide them is really to help them discover that, right? So I would love to say that corporations are open to it. the last 2 roles that I held in corporate were actually small businesses. They had hired me to change what they've been doing for 30 years and, basically take them into the next level. And at the end of the day, they weren't ready for the change. They weren't really ready to do what they needed to do to stop the patterns that they were stuck in that was perpetuating the same result over and over again. So it's a really interesting journey. And I can't say what the environment would be like now since I've been out for 5 years. I would hope that it's evolved, with between COVID and all the work from home and everything. But it's still something that I'm trying to bridge myself. I would love to reach some leaders and start to talk to them about what that would look like.
Well, so anyone listening, pass it on.
Yeah.
So what is it in you that prompted this action, right? Like there's lots of people out there who've worked in corporate and become disillusioned and done meditation, but to then take that and turn it into a business model to support people and to bring in this aspect of connecting to the land. There's something about who you are, your experiences that motivated you to act in this way. Do you know what that story is or that experience is? And will you share that?
Yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with human design or, how much of the audience is, but I have a completely open identity center. And so what that means is that I'm always going to be a seeker looking for my purpose, but people who have open or undefined identity centers won't find that exact path. Like, this is exactly what I meant to do, and here are the steps to get there, right? We will never have that. And so the way that's shown up for me in my life without knowing about human design is, as a child and through my teenage years, I was, sort of this chameleon jumping around to different friend groups and not really understanding who I was, just trying to find, like, where do I belong? The same thing in corporate, right? Trying all these different pathways and getting opportunities and trying them, learning new things and getting excited about maybe this is my path. And then I would just continue to hit these brick walls that, nope, this isn't it. Like, there's more. And so there was just something inside of me, to answer your question, something inside of me that was like, there's more than this. I know it's not this. There's more than this. And so it's really, for me, it's been that. And what's exciting to me about the way I'm living my life now is that, I'm sort of walking into the mystery. I'm walking into, I don't know what my life is going to look like. And every time I was asked that question, Kristin, where do you want to be in 5 years, when I was in corporate? I hated that question. And now, like, I still can tell you, I have no idea. But I started just answering the question as, I'm going to be successful. Wherever that is, I'm going to be successful. And what's funny is I'm a projector in human design, and our signature is success. So it's just funny that I kind of use that word, but yeah, like, to me, that's the fun part of it. I'm also Sagittarius, so, like, we like to adventure and stuff. So to me, it's kind of like those choose your own adventure books that you want to go in the cave, or do you want to go on this hike over here and flip to page. So it's just kind of fun that I don't know. And that I get to meet all these incredible people all over the world and know that as long as I'm happy wherever I am, I'm still happy. And I continue to check in with, like, my offerings in my business every month too. Am I still happy doing this? Does this bring me joy? Every time I host an event, I'm asking that question. And that's what I guide myself with, just tuning into, is this still feel good to me?
What does success look like to you, if that's one of your hallmarks?
It's a good question. Success to me is, I would say, like, a divine acceptance. I think it continues to morph in my life, the definition of success. But as I sit here right now, it just feels like this knowing that everything is going to be okay. Even when things come up and happen in my life that I'm like, why did that happen? Why am I being redirected here? I don't understand it. When my mind can't make sense of it, and I can still lean into the trusting my intuition and saying, okay, I know I'm being guided here for a reason. And I literally can't mess that up. Like, no matter what's happening in my life, what's meant for me will always find me. So how can I just lean in and release the resistance? Like that total peace, that feels like success to me. And that it's fun and adventurous along the way.
Yeah, I relate to that. You've touched on this a bit. If you want to say more specifically, what would you say is unusual about what you're doing?
So I run my business primarily offline. I'm on social media, but the way that I build my business is through local events. So as I travel, I connect with local businesses and host events there. And then, I'm sort of building this web of a network around the world. Not being on social. I'm on social to share my journey, but I don't really call business in that way. Like, I still share my offerings and things like that. But for the most part, I get business through communities that I'm in and communities that I visit and serve and meet people in. That's one way. And then the other thing I would say is that nothing about what I'm doing is really logical. That I continue to travel. And even as I shifted out of corporate into my business, it was a bit of a roller coaster for a while. And that was challenging. And I used angel numbers, for those of you that don't know, that just repeating numbers. If I saw 111 or 222 or 333 or 1212, I took that as a sign that I'm on the right path. Like, I literally took angel numbers to say that everything is going to be okay, even though things feel like chaotic and a roller coaster right now. I was asked a lot of times, when are you going to go get a real job? And I've just continued to trust that I'm on my purpose path, and there's no way that I can fail. There's no way that I can fail if I'm walking my purpose path. And I think this is where I'm actually going to write a post about this today. And this just reminds me of it. I said to someone earlier, the magic is in the in-between. That's where it all happens, right? Because people tend to give up when it gets hard because they think, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not cut out to run a business. But if you take something even as simple as an angel number or a sign, an animal that you see often as an indicator that you're exactly where you're meant to be, I think that's where we start to hold space for this could actually be successful. And then you start to see more and more of that in your life. But we have to be able to hold space in that void for the success piece of it, no matter how small of a sliver it might be in that moment. And just know that it's going to get bigger and bigger. And that's what's happened. And now my business is sustainable and it's not a roller coaster anymore. Yeah.
One of the questions I often ask is how people stay motivated or recharge. And I feel like one of the things that you're bringing forward also is having an intention for how you focus your energy before it gets depleted or you feel discouraged, right? That you've got this intention of this is how I keep myself. And that's, I think, another way to approach what is realistically, the things that you've talked about that are just so real for small business owners and also for people that are forging new paths, which is that there isn't a structure, a lot of role modeling. And in fact, there's a lot of active discouragement and barriers to creating something that's new and I would say a little bit more engaged and less exploitive. I think that's a very useful way to look at it as well, is to say, in addition to all the things that we can do to recover ourselves, really thinking ahead of time of the things we can do to prevent or to keep ourselves in that space of encouraged motivation.
I love that you use the word active discouragement, because it's so true. And that's what I was saying. Like, it's like there's this force of energy that's trying to pull us back into the norm all the time. So it's truly this active effort that we have to say, no, I'm not a part of that. And even if, like, I've gone as far to say that I believe so much in the path that I'm walking that I'm willing to leave even my family behind if they don't get it and don't want to understand it or be supportive of it. I'm okay with leaving them behind because I believe so much in the path that I'm walking.
Yeah. Who would you say thrives with your service? You mentioned small business owners, but is there anything else that is an indicator of somebody who would really thrive with what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Somebody who's in that transition phase, for sure. If you're in a corporate job and you're unhappy and you don't know where you're meant to go, I would encourage you, if this is you listening to this, not to jump ship, really, because you just perpetuate that same pattern of running into that same wall. So it's really beneficial to just rip off the Band-Aid and understand, who am I and what am I actually looking for before you go on that journey. So people who are in transition, and then also new business owners. I work a lot with people who are brand new and they really want to build a business that's in alignment for them and maybe looks different. If you're a therapist who wants to do therapy or step into doing things that maybe are a little bit controversial in the therapy world, even people who want to disrupt the norms, and also people who are just really tired of where they're at and they're like, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to move. I don't know what it looks like. And you don't have to know what it looks like because the work is really about lifing, right? It's really about just like doing life and understanding, how am I showing up here? Was I triggered here? Did I express myself the way that I wanted to express myself? Am I doing the things that I love? Do I have people in my life that don't light me up and suck the energy out of me? Like, whatever that looks like for you. It's really about just breaking all that down so that you can, like, when we come into our true essence, we shine so brightly and magnetize what's really meant for us to come our way. And that's what I want to see more of, that, please.
Yeah. That's definitely for me, that I want that for everybody, to be able to wake up and do something that is at least energy neutral. I think it's fine if your job isn't your life. I feel like we get very conflated here in the US. Maybe being able to look forward to who you work with and not feel drained by your tasks, and honestly feel like your employer cares about you. That sounds really lovely to me, to be working actively to help people in that. Can you share some advice that you received that's influenced the way you approach your work?
I'm going to go back to human design, actually, because human design taught me that as a projector, we see into things deeply and in a way that a lot of people don't see and maybe aren't ready to see. And so I think that there's been parts of my life, my journey, that I've attached, like going back to your question about what does it look like to build from the mind versus intuition, even I've attached to a certain outcome. And so I try to kind of force that path to happen in a way that I'm pushing for people to receive what I have to say or recognize me. Right. Even when I was building my business, right. Starting to when I was trying to obtain clients and, sort of following up with them and like, okay, I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? Just like that pushing energy. Now I've found more of a relaxed state. I've also stabilized my business, right? So I'm much more relaxed in that I can wait more for people to come to me and be ready and just be very clear about where I am and what I offer, and just put that energy out into the world and know that the people who are ready for that are the ones who are going to align with me. So I would say it's something I'm still working on. But it's affected a lot of the way that I do business because it's taken a lot of the disappointment out of pursuing something that's not quite ready for me. Right. And so being more patient with not even like I'm just sitting here waiting, but that I'm moving forward with what I want to create, and I'm allowing the invitations that align with what I'm creating to come through instead of me anchoring into an old version of what I thought was supposed to happen in my path. Right. It's a conscious effort, but it's something that has made a world of a difference for me. It's made things flow with more ease.
Yeah, I relate to that. I feel like whenever I force things and I can feel it, which isn't the same as doing the work to make something happen, it's aligned or needs to happen. It all feels wrong. And it frustrates me sometimes because I'm like, no, I like this. This is what I want to be. Yeah. But I can't do it. Darn it. Is there anything else that you want to share about what you're up to or your path before we say goodbye to everybody?
I would say that, and I lead with this a lot, is that if you're listening to this podcast and something lit up within you, right, whether it was something I said or something that Aicila said, can you follow that? Can you lean into that light that came through and really follow that path? Because not everybody in the world is going to get that calling. And it's so important when we follow that, when we trust that, that's when we find why we're really here, what our gifts are, who we are. And it's the key to everything. Go down the rabbit hole. That's what I would say. Follow the energy.
Go down the rabbit hole. That's the theme for the week. Go down the rabbit hole, everybody. So for folks who are listening, and how do they learn more, follow you, get in touch?
So I'm on, my Instagram is at rewildingkq, and then my business is KQ Unplugged. And so you can find me on YouTube, and my website's kqunplugged.co. Everything is linked on my website.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. I hope you enjoy the show. I love making it. If you did enjoy it, consider hopping over to the review portion of the platform you listen on and letting other people know about it. Or share the episode or the entire show with a friend or subscribe to the show. Definitely reach out, get on my newsletter, follow me on social media, and let me know what you like, what you don't like, and what you'd like to see in the future. Well, we love our guests. Appearance on the Business as Unusual podcast or any Bicurean consulting production is for information purposes only and is not to be considered an endorsement of their business practices, or character. Please properly vet anyone you find through this podcast and generally before you do any business with them. Thank you for listening.